go.
Hey everyone, hello. Welcome to the Emotional Entrepreneur Show. Welcome. It's me and my incredible co-host and partner,
Jen.
I just love having you do it now because you're like, oh, Jen.
It's like I'm trying to find that right note. Like I can't. It's like, it sounds weird every time I do it. I'm like, I need the right note.
You make me laugh so hard.
Oh, good.
Well, I don't know why I'm losing my voice. All right, everyone. Welcome. We're talking about such an important topic today. I know that there have been a lot of people who have commented about this particular topic, and really it's about the emotional impact of entrepreneurial isolation and finding connection in the digital age. And it's also about loneliness, right? And so this is what we're going to talk about, because as entrepreneurs, it can get lonely. It can feel isolating. And there are things that we can do about it. Hey, Chastity. Hello, everyone out there. Invite your friends, because this might be something that they need to hear today. There are so many things in regards to understanding entrepreneurial isolation. And it starts with really understanding how this could impact mental health and create challenges. Right. So isolation can lead to feelings of loneliness, anxiety, depression, and just overall impacting mental health. And if it's difficult for you to feel connected or to reach out, or you have yet to build a community, that might even create feelings of more isolation. So, Jen, thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's been a topic that we've talked about a lot, and every once in a while we will get people that do feel this way, even though there are so many opportunities to connect, and whether that's in person or online. I don't know if people just aren't aware of so many of the resources that are available to people to take advantage of to meet other people, but there are people that are experiencing that loneliness, but the exciting thing is knowing that there are a lot of opportunities to connect, and you do not have to take this journey alone, and that there are several ways to get connected and feel like, okay, I can start building my community. And especially because a lot of people do experience, especially if you're new to entrepreneurship and going out on your own, we're either so used to having only our job or trying to transition out of that structure that we've been used to, and we've only had like our friends and family. And so when you decide to go into this new world, and all you've had and been used to is only friends and family, that shift is really difficult sometimes, or strange, because you're stepping into a new role, into a new light, into a new environment, emotionally and physically. And then we sometimes run into well, how come these people aren't supporting me? And then that can add to the feeling lonely, or people not supporting your dreams, or feeling like they don't understand you. So, those are those kinds of factors that we can pay attention to. But the good news is you don't have to only rely on what we're used to in terms of like family and friends, because you have so many opportunities, again, to meet new people. And, I know for Summer and I, that's been something that's very near and dear to us, building those relationships. And my goodness, we have like so many, close friendships through, online connections, through different platforms. And then what's really, really fun and exciting is that that extends into live events or meeting up I know like Summer's done several events in the DC area, and even in New York. I mean, they've done so many things together, and it's really cool to see people come together. And the beautiful thing is everybody walks away after meeting in person like, oh my gosh, we need to do this more often, or oh my gosh, it was so great meeting you, because as humans, we need that connection in person. And so that's what's exciting to me. So I feel like, just want to encourage you throughout this episode, if you have ever felt alone or felt like, I feel alone, I don't have anybody, you're going to be able to, connect with people. And we're going to talk about that kind of stuff today.
We are going to talk about that. And thank you so much for that, Jen. Yes, yes, and yes. There's an opportunity to get connected, but when you're first starting as an entrepreneur and getting adjusted, there's that adjustment period, right? So in the clinical world, we talk about that 3 to 6 month mark of adjustment, right? To a new job, to a new home, to a new situation, potentially entrepreneurship. And for many of us, it's a new thing. It was a new thing, right? We are coming from traditional jobs and we are making that transition over into entrepreneurship. And so that could feel a little wonky because it really is self-directed. And you're then taking on everything that maybe a company had resources for. So you're taking on writing the content, your marketing, your design, your mission, your purpose, everything that you're putting out there and creating the product or the service, right? And so you can start feeling, especially if you're feeling like this isn't taking off as quickly as you expected, or this isn't like maybe you idealized it going really fast and really great. And I think we all have those moments, right? But give yourself some grace because it's a slow progress, right? And part of that progress is building up your communities. So there may be a little isolation. It may feel a little lonely. You may feel a bit disengaged during that transitional period, right? And so that can feel lonely. Here's what I want to call out to other entrepreneurs as well. If this is your friend and you're recognizing these things, reach out. Let that person know that they're not alone. Offer resources, offer an ear, offer some support. That's what we do as entrepreneurs. That's what we do as a community. And that is exactly how you start building community. There have been many occasions where, as an example, that I'm hooked up with people on LinkedIn or Instagram, and I notice that they're not posting as much. They're not there as much. And I will actually look up either their phone number, or I will go into the DMs and I will check on them. And I will say, hey, I haven't seen you around lately. Are you okay? I've missed you, right? I want to hear from you. And people will most likely get back. And some people have even said, oh, I'm dealing with a really difficult medical situation, or I'm dealing with something that's, just really heavy on my heart right now. And I'll say, can I listen? Can I be there? I'm here. I want to chat, right? And people remember that. They know that you're there. And that's how you start building community, because people then start recognizing that you actually care, right? You care about them, and you're recognizing that they're distant, that, behavior has changed. So when we recognize that somebody's behavior is changing, reach out and say something. Reach out and just say hello. Reach out, tell them that you care. As a matter of fact, I was reading on LinkedIn before we got on today, and somebody said, there were a couple of people that were on my heart today. And so this post, it was really nice to see, because I actually reached out to those people because they were on my heart, and we had some great Zoom conversations. So you don't have to be lonely, but it may feel lonely, and we empathize. We understand. We have all been there to a certain degree or a certain level, right? So make sure that you're one reaching out And that other entrepreneurs that are out there, if you recognize that there's a change in behavior, a change in patterns of behavior, reach out to folks and just check on them, ask them how they're doing. There are all kinds of resources out there, but until you start building that community, until you start saying hello, just saying hello, and it doesn't even have to be those weird DMs that you get on LinkedIn.
Weird,
Instagram,
yeah.
like, oh, I noticed that you're really making a difference here. And I'd really
Oh
like to talk to you and add you to my, and I'm like, okay, I get it. All right. That's the way they're going to reach out. But there are those authentic reach outs that are like, hey, listen, I saw that you wrote about such and that really spoke to me. Something that maybe they posted or something, or maybe you listened to a podcast and you wanted to get to know that person. You know what? People do podcasts because they want to get to know you too. They're not just selling a product or a service, but guess what? They're putting themselves out there as well to talk about themselves and talk about what they do because they want to get to know their public, their community. All right, there's been some comments here, and I want to
yeah.
read some of these comments here. So Bibiana says expectations can sometimes be a tough lesson, and like the myth of overnight success, yes. And Jen says, yes, right. Laugh out loud. And Chastity says, coffee chats can be so helpful when it comes to helping one stay connected. I love connecting with LinkedIn followers and do coffee chats. And then Bibiana says, that's literally the Odyssey. Ha ha ha. And then Bibiana also says, it's great to have people you can be honest with and to share for real more than surface. Absolutely. Jen?
Yeah. One of the things that I love what you talked about was when you reach out, and Summer, you're so awesome at that. That's one thing that everybody loves about Summer. She's so good about reaching out when people, kind of disappear. And, people think that, you know, nobody cares. So when you're that one person that does reach out, it means a lot to people. But one of the things I think people sometimes may feel like, well, I don't know what I could do. I don't know what to say. And the key thing that Summer said here was, can I listen? Sometimes people just need to, vent or share. They're not necessarily looking for the answer. So
Yeah.
let that take the pressure off of you to feel that responsibility and heavy weight of I have to have the answers and the solution for that person. You don't.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just being there and being present and just listening. Like, hey, can I listen? Do you need to let some stuff out? And it could be that simple. So you just listen and just be present. And that is so huge. Sometimes it's even more important to do that than to feel that you have to have the answers and the solution and all those different things. So just listening is so key when you're trying to connect with people, and especially if they're feeling or going through something.
Oh, absolutely. I love this too. I'm going to read these two comments. Um,
Mm,
Chastity says, and listening to listen and not always listening to respond.
right.
I love that, Chastity, because John Travolta once mentioned, and I loved it, and I probably said this before, but his wife passed away, Kelly Preston. And
Mm,
when his wife passed away, there are all these people around him. And he said, people want to comfort you, but they feel kind of uncomfortable just sitting in silence, right? So then they start having this conversation about them and about their feelings and about, the loved ones that they lost. And then it becomes a situation where the person that's grieving is
consoling the other person.
consoling the other people, right? And
Yeah.
it then turns into like a therapy session or counseling or coaching session for somebody else. And sometimes it's just a matter of sitting there, even if it feels uncomfortable, sitting in that silence, sitting shoulder to shoulder and being present with that person, being
Right.
able to reflectively just hear, listen, just to be present. And so that does a lot as well, is just being present. And that helps that person recognize that they're not alone. They're not alone. And so we are not alone. We are never alone. It's sometimes the effects of what's happening and the impact of our well being can create burnout. It can create, really escalate our stress levels. It can really cause us to disengage. And or it can work in the opposite, where we're becoming very manicky, right? And we're like, oh, we gotta do, and we're just not sitting where we're at and experiencing what we're experiencing, and we're trying to push it away, do the next thing, do the next thing, do the next thing. And it's like, sometimes really it's about taking breath. Breath is life, right? And when you're going so fast, sometimes you're not taking the breaths that you need to
Right.
rejuvenate, to actually breathe that life in. And to me, that is so important. And it's also a lesson, because I'm one of those people who likes to go fast sometimes. And sometimes it's, all right, Summer, it's time to sit back and take a breather. It's time to breathe in life. It's time to breathe in that oxygen, right? And so do that, take in that breath, because that breath, and I've done breath work on here, I've done breath exercises on these shows before. So it's important that we look at our own mental health, we look at our own well-being, where we're at, set boundaries, not just for others, but for ourselves. And then also, here's some of the strategies to combat that. It's how do we reach out? And Jen is really good at this too. She's really great at being part of different groups, right? And especially industry related groups. And so I love that. So when she mentions, oh, yeah, I'm a part of this group, or I'm a part of that group, she starts making those connections. She starts building those relationships, those honest, authentic, transparent relationships where you're having real conversations. Let's hear more about how you do that, Jen.
Yeah, well, for most of my life, I was never that person that had a group in school. Like, I think a little bit in high school, and then that all disbanded. But most of my adult life, I've always kind of been like this lone ranger. So I have I have very close relationships with different people, a handful of people, and then they don't even know each other. But that's how I've always operated. So that, let me just leave that caveat. So I've never had this group of the high school group that's been together for, we all, go out on outings and we all have our kids together. I don't have that. So the way I compensate is like, I just, I am in different groups. And so, I align myself with causes or groups that I have interest in, or to whatever their cause or their community is, do I have a direct relationship or connection to that? So that helps a lot, because I have, a purpose for serving, or, that particular group, especially if it's in the creative arts, or if it's a nonprofit, if it's financially related, in terms of the industry. So, so for you guys, identify some of those things. If you're looking for a group, like, well, it doesn't have to be business related. It so does not have to be business related. It could be like,
Right.
you're in a running group. I have friends who are in rowing groups, or maybe, you love, volunteering and helping out, abandoned animals. It could be anything. And
Yes.
so you have these shared interests. And that's how you make connections, right? So, go in there with a sense of like purpose to serve and give. But it don't, and what I say that because there are people in all the years I've done networking. I used to do a lot of networking back in the day, like in 2014, 2017. Like, I know the entire Southern California. And I would tell you, there were people I would meet at these networking groups, and it was so annoying. Like, you can just tell all they wanted to do was just hand you a business card.
Oh,
And they're not there to really connect and give value. They're just there to see who can they do a transaction with. And so don't be that person. I used to call these people card sharks, because they would like walk around and they would just be like, here's my card, did I give you a card? And I mean, I would be in these events, and you're having a conversation with somebody, and this person kind of just jump in. He's like, oh, excuse me, did I give you a card? And I was like, are you freaking serious? I'm
oh,
telling you, I have seen it all. I have seen it all. And I'm just like, no, and I don't want it. And so I say that to just don't be that guy. And and go into these groups or these events with the intention to, like, let me get to know people. Let me see, let me listen. A lot of it too is, let me listen to who's in the room, instead of going it, I don't go into like, okay, well, who can I tell what I do? I go in there to see who what can I learn, because that's how you're going to build the relationship. That's how you're going to build the rapport. If that person walks away feeling like, wow, you know what? I really like talking to Summer. Like,
Yeah.
it was such a great conversation, and Summer probably didn't even say anything because Summer listened. I mean, I'm telling you, it's like the most interesting like tricks, if you want to
Yeah,
even call it that. Like, you know, because you're a good listener. Because how many times do people want to just like tell you everything, right? But if you're a good listener, you connect really, really much more easily with that person, and that's when you're going to get the call back. That's when you're going to be remembered, not the annoying person that's just trying to do a transaction and you end up repelling them. So, you know, so get involved with the groups that you have, you know, some similarities that you can share with the other people there. And so, you know, that's one way. That's in in you know, live events or in person. And then even virtually, this is what I do mostly now because it's just easier. And I just don't like driving in California because our traffic is horrible, but I'll do it. I'll still do it. And you know, you have, like, you know, Chastity said, have a coffee chat, have a virtual coffee chat. You
Yeah.
know, so it's been so great. Like, especially if you're, you know, Summer is awesome because her and I, we connect with different people and we're like, hey, you need to meet this person, or, you know, and, you know, because we know each other so well, we have a really good idea of like who to send to each other and who not to send to each other.
Totally.
But every time it's happened, it's always like, oh my gosh, that person was amazing. I totally loved her. That's usually how the report comes back. And it's like, of course, because we knew what that, you know, we know how that connection is going to be really great. That conversation is going to be great. And it could be that simple. It could be a phone call. It could be a virtual chat. And you know what? Again, just listen. It's as simple as like, hey, getting to know that person. And then, you know, if it makes sense, you don't, and I want to say this, don't feel like you have to force a collaboration with everybody you meet. If it's just not happening, it ain't happening. Now, you don't have to feel like we have to do something together just because we had a virtual chat. So I'm giving you that permission to know you don't have to do that, because there's going to be, you know, that person could be nice and, you know, but you know, when you really hit it off with somebody. And I kind of feel that if you don't have that feeling, it's almost like dating, you know, it's like, oh my gosh, this is great. Yeah, I want to go on a second date. Versus, yeah, it was all right. They were nice. You know, you don't want to go again. So why would you force like a collaboration from a virtual chat that it was okay, but, you know, hey, I'll keep you in mind, and just gracefully exit. And you know, you're probably never going to have another conversation, but that's okay. I think sometimes some people may feel guilty, but some people feel like I have to do something with every single person. No, you're going to burn out if you try to do that. You have to be very discerning with how you filter who you're meeting. Otherwise, the way that you show up and serve, it will become diluted. And you want to be able to just focus on these core relationships and have close relationships with the people. You know, obviously we know that in personally, but you want to do the same thing in your business. You want to have really good, solid relationships, like, you know, Bibiana mentioned earlier, where you want to be able to have these like, relationships. They're business, but trust, they eventually, if not fast, turn into personal relationships and friendships too. And then you have these open, honest conversations where you can be real, like, yeah, business is sucking right now. You know, I haven't booked somebody. And that's when you really start to feel supported, and you really start to feel like, you know what, I got community around me. So it all builds up, but, you know, we also have to give. So if you're feeling lonely, but you're not getting out there, you're not reaching out to people, well, it's a two-way street. We, as much as we want to take in and feel loved and surrounded and supported, we also have to be willing to give that back.
Absolutely. Let me read some of these comments
Yeah.
because the comments were coming in. Chastity says, I have a friend who I've been recently doing check-ins with to make sure she is getting rest. She is a caregiver and pours out a lot. So I try to make sure she prioritizes rest too. Oh, that's wonderful. Sometimes we also have to change the scenery where we work. Some people do coffee shops instead of working from home every day. It's also good to get outside and take walks or just step away. Yes, yes, And yes, love that. Love that, because we do need to step away. Sometimes just getting the fresh air, right? Seeing some greenery, bringing some peace to our whole body and brain. So Bibiana says, you mean like the person on LinkedIn in who told me their kid has a business and they want to get on podcast? I was like, I have one about paranormal experiences. Are they haunted? They only saw podcasts, had zero interest in me. And that's true. And that's going to happen. And I'm so glad you brought that up, Bibiana, because I don't want you as entrepreneurs to be discouraged by that. Do not let those few people that are very egocentric get the best of you. Those are not your community. Those people, they're like those card sharks, right? Boom, boom, boom. It's like a deck of cards and they're just doing like this, right? So it's like, here's my card. I don't care if I'm interrupting this conversation. Here's my card, right? It's like rude, right?
Oh, it's so off-putting. Oh, it's so.
And there's certain groups that felt like that to me too, as an entrepreneur, starting in the early phases. It felt very transactional. And then I stepped out of that group because I was like, that's not who I am. That's not the kind of connections I want. I want to build relationships. I want to build authentic relationships that build a community. And that's why I also, even if it's not my business or something related to what I do, and yet they're a friend online and they've offered value in ways that have nothing to do with my business, maybe just friendship and connection, I'm going to pay attention to their behavior. I'm going to pay attention to what they're doing. I'm going to pay attention and offer that support, right? There was somebody who was running his own radio station, and I saw that he had not been on LinkedIn, and I was like, wait a second, where's he been? Where's he at? There's another couple who stepped away from LinkedIn, and I checked on them and said, what's going on? I don't see you out there anymore. They said, we're just taking a break from LinkedIn because it became very overwhelming. And sometimes social media can, on the reverse end of this, it can become overwhelming because you see all these people, 100 people making comments about something, and you put something up and you get maybe 10 comments. Well, that's okay. That's okay. You're still building those relationships, and those 10 people that are there making those comments care. They care, right? They really care. And Jen is right. And I want to go back to something she said that's really important. We know each other. So we recognize when we make introductions, what might work, and not everything will work out, but because we know each other, I'm going to send somebody over to her that maybe has some kind of commonality, right? So I think there was one person recently and they had dancing in common. I was like, yes.
Oh my gosh, there was like a billion commonalities.
Oh my God, there were so many. And it wasn't just that, there were many. And I recognized those. And I was so cool. She wants to know her. Plus, they live in the same area. So I was like, at least, clearly
drivable.
Drivable, right? Drivable. So I'm like, yes, okay, this might be an awesome connection, right? Because we can never know enough people. It's not that we're always like, oh, let's make our group huge. But here's the thing. It's always nice to meet different people, to see what excites them, to see their purpose, to understand, how they're evolving in their journey, what their journey looked like, to listen, right? And so that's what gets us out of the funk, out of the loneliness, out of the isolation, is just taking those small steps. If you're not somebody like Jen, who didn't have these big groups of people that she hung out with, I was like that too. I kind of skirted the edges of different groups and was like, hey, but I had a core group of friends, right? And those core group of friends are what I did things with. But it's not to say that I wasn't like, hey folks, how you doing over there? Or, that's just me, right? And so the thing is, take those small steps. If you're not somebody who has those large group of communities, that's okay. But take those small steps to look at who you might be interested in getting to know, what groups might be of interest because they might provide value for you and ideas of things that maybe you didn't know about in regards to content building, marketing, different things that are going to help build your business where you're going to organically meet people, right? That
Right.
might have similar interests. So I want to read one more comment here. It says, thankfully, the authentic people outnumber this kind of situation. Transactional sucks. It's so basic. I'm cringing. Yeah, and that's something when we started talking about early on in our program, we started talking about networking. And to me, networking was like, oh, that word.
He hates that word.
I'm like, that word. I'm like,
He hates that word and failure.
that word and failure. I'm like, missteps, no failures here, no failures. So I was like, you know what? Every misstep is wisdom. It's not a failure. So, and then networking, it's like, no, let's build relationships. Let's not network like computers, right? We're not doing that. We are building authentic relationships. So yeah, I'm glad we can laugh about it because it is funny. And it's
I wanted to add too, one of the things too, it's like find your I got this word from my friend, and she would call me like her business bestie. And things have changed over the years, but I always love that word. And like Summer and I talk a lot. And one of the things that's such a benefit too is when you start to build your core group of, entrepreneurial friends. One of the things I love about it is that you guys can start laughing about the stuff that sucks. Like you need that. You absolutely need that. I mean, look at Summer and I. We laugh at so many things because like it is. We all know it's not a smooth ride. It's not a smooth journey. It's very up and down. It's lots of down. And especially when you're in the emerging growth phase, there's going to be like, gosh, when is this going to go off and pop in? Like, when is this going to finally jump? Like, when is this finally, you're going to go through that emotional roller coaster, hence the emotional entrepreneur. Right. But when you have that person that you can talk to and really vent that is on their own entrepreneurial journey, or maybe you're doing some things together like Summer and I are, you can laugh. Like you can go like, yeah, a second. And then just like, oh my gosh, I just got off this Zoom call, or like, this project, like whatever it is, like you're venting, like you need that other person who's walking their own walk, but can understand the walk and appreciate the one that you're on. Because this is where it gets frustrating for so many people who do not build this community. You go to your friends and family who have, none of them have entrepreneurial experience whatsoever. They project their own insecurities and lack of knowledge of what you are going through, and then it affects your energy, and then you get discouraged, and then you feel unloved and unsupported. But you have to remember, it's not that they don't love you. You're going for support to the wrong people. That's all it is. That's all it is. Don't take it personally. You have to remember that a lot of times it's them wanting for you to be safe, them projecting their fear and insecurity onto you and telling you like, I don't know if that's going to work. Are you sure you want to do that? Don't quit your day job, like whatever things you hear from them. And that's mostly what it is. I'm not to say that some of them, really don't believe in you, but this is why, we all have some kind of situation like that. But this is where it is so important to have those business besties around you, to go to these people for that support, to go to these people and to be able to make light of situations that were very tough, that were very difficult, that were very, hurtful sometimes, or, you lost money, or, there are many things Summer and I have gone through over the last 4 years, and it sucked when we went through it. Yeah, it sucked. It sucked major, but there was a point in time where we ended up laughing about it, like hysterically laughing about it. And I could not have that conversation with other people in my life that don't understand this. And when you bring that levity and that laughter into it, it helps your spirit just get back up and like, thank goodness I got that. Okay, we laughed about it now, and now let's reassess, like, what do we do now moving forward? And it's so important to have that, because if you don't, this could be one of the reasons why I think so many people stop and quit, because we don't have that support around us. We don't have those people to vent to, or to, maybe it's not always like vent bad stuff, but it's also important to be like, hey, I have this idea. You just need cheerleaders in your life. Like, oh my gosh, that is so amazing. Like, I can't wait to see what you do with it. That's so perfect for you. Like, you're gonna crush it. sometimes we just need to, as much as we need to, hear the encouraging word, it's so important to be able to give it to one another as well.
Oh yeah. Everything you said. Yes. And Mike said, what? Entrepreneurship is not easy? Bingo. It's not easy. And it's really self-driven. So Bibiana says, right? Feels like you won the lottery when people get it and want you to win.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And there are people out there who actually really feel that way. And so those are people that will help you build your communities, connect you with the right folks, the resources. And I want, before we close out today, not just get to our nugget, but I want to just mention three things. Remember to prioritize your self-care in all of this. This is really important. If something comes up, if you find that you're just burning out, prioritize your self-care. Find that balance between what you're doing. Yes, your priorities might be work. You might love it. I know I do. But sometimes I've got to even set my own boundaries and say, not 4 o'clock this morning. That's not going to be what you're doing, Summer. You're going to go to bed at 12 o'clock, not 4 in the morning, just 12 a.m.
She's talking about when she needs to go to bed, not wake up, by the way. just so you know, that's Summer's bedtime, not wake up time.
So, yes. So, because I feel it in my body. I feel it in my brain. I feel it when I can't recall things. I'm like, oh, I didn't get enough sleep last night. And now I can't even remember that person's name or, whatever the case may be. But that all helps with, really reducing your stress, setting boundaries for yourself, understanding what self-care is, know what that looks like for yourself, and make a list, have a routine. Jen has a really great routine. I just admire her because she does have a routine. She, starts in the morning and she knows what time is a good bedtime for her and she tries to stick to that. And I appreciate that about her. Although she's not up, it's like we really work well. I can't imagine what's going to happen when I'm actually moved to the
what
West
are you going to do when you're in the same time zone? I'm going to have to wait like 3 hours.
I'm not up yet, Jen. I just went to bed. So.
I'm waking up when you go to bed. Yeah.
I know, but find those people, like Jen said, find those people where you can laugh when it's high or when it's low or when you're just doing well and just stabilized, right? And it's like we've had highs, we've had lows, but guess what? I've had a business bestie and a great friend in Jen, and I just love her to pieces because we've done these things together. Oh my God, I just don't see entrepreneurship without her. So it's like it's like we have had some really trying times and where we've lost a lot of money, and it's like we just looked at each other, laughed our butts off, and we're like, okay, well,
and we still do every once in a while.
I know, and we still laugh, and it's still great because it's that sense of, all right, we've got that partner. We've got somebody who understands. It may not even be my spouse. It's Jen. It could be, it's like, because she's the entrepreneur. She gets it, right? So go to the people that might get it. Like Jen said, it might not be a parent. It might not be a spouse. It might not be an aunt or uncle. It might be somebody else. So join those groups. Reach out. If you see another entrepreneur kind of changing behavior, you see them, kind of disengaging, reach out. Jen, your nugget?
Yeah, my nugget is I love what you're talking about, like, reaching out. And so I want to challenge you guys, think of 3 people that you could reach out to that you haven't spoken to, that you probably had a virtual chat with, and it was really great. And then you know how it goes, life happens, and then things just kind of fizzle. Like, think of 3 people that you haven't connected with in a bit that you had a really great connection with, and just shoot them. It doesn't have to be like you're selling something. Just like, hey, you know what? You were on my mind. Just wanted to see how things are going. It can be that simple. That takes like 10 seconds for you to send a message or DM, and let it go from there. I think just getting into the act of sending, stuff out, and people just feel warm and fuzzy and great because they're like, oh, somebody was thinking of me. How sweet. Like, how nice. That's really great. So yeah, reach out to 3 people that, if you kind of lost touch with, and you would, and knowing that you had a great connection, and you would want to, grow that relationship.
I love that, Jen. Yes,
Thank you. How about
three
you?
people, reach out. I love that. That's so important. And I also there's two things that I want to say. So it's, if you find or you recognize certain behavior in other people where they're changing, they're disengaging, reach out. Just ask them how they are and listen. Take 15 minutes, take 20 minutes. If you see that there's a change in behavior, because I think sometimes, and I drove across country, talking to different radio shows and bringing attention to veteran suicide awareness a few years ago. I was on radio stations, news, you name it. And I feel like when we talk about it, we're opening up those conversations. But when we don't talk about it and we're not recognizing the symptoms, we're putting on blinders and we're giving ourselves permission not to see that person depressing, not to see that person isolating. Take down those blinders, recognize the signs, recognize the symptoms, and reach out to folks because it's so important. Today, I think we're getting caught up in this movement of social, but it's like a fog. It's not like a true connection. Connect with people. Recognize when behavior is changing. That's number one. And number two, we always say, oh gosh, you've got to set boundaries for other people. I'm not saying set boundaries in a way of like stop yourself from doing A, B, or C, but set boundaries for yourself in regards to if you start burning out or if you start feeling tired or you start feeling unbalanced, know your boundaries. Understand what those are. So
Right.
with
Love
that said,
it.
yay! All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. If you have somebody that needs to listen to this, please pass this on. You can find this on YouTube. You can find this replay on LinkedIn, and you will be able to find this linked on Instagram as well. And what we're going to do is what we always do. We are going to dance this out. And thank you again for joining us. Join us next week as we talk about a different subject. Thank you, Jen. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys, for being here as always.
Absolutely. Okay. Why is this not playing now? Oh
Da, da, da,
no.
da,
I know. Why is it not
da,
playing?
da,
Okay,
da,
let's see.
da, da,
Hold on, folks, because we
da,
need to do
da, da,
stuff. This is
da,
just
da,
ah!
da, 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 da. I'm singing it out.
Here we go. Woo! Bye, everybody. Thanks for hanging in there with us. Take care. Woo! Bye, everyone.